Welcome to the Catalyst Sale Podcast. Many of us struggle with sales, whether it's from confidence, comfort, or just not wanting to be salesy. We want to help our customers. We know we can, but we complicate the process. This podcast is designed to help professionals like you improve at sales through process, practice, frameworks, and thinking differently about what you already know. I'm your host, Jody Mayberry, and I'm here with the Chief Revenue Officer of SideSafe, Mike Simmons. Mike, I nailed it.
Almost. You're close. The name of the company is just going to roll off your tongue, I'm sure, at some point in time. But you were close. So way to bring the proper mindset. So we're talking mindset again. So if you brought a proper mindset, you kind of stumbled a little bit, but you had the mindset of a winner, and you said, I nailed it. You got close.
Well, part of my positive mindset is to choose not to listen to people trying to bring me down. Mike Simmons is bringing me down, and I choose not to listen. So we're going to keep pushing on talking about positive mindset. That's our theme for the month. Last episode, we talked about how music can impact your mindset. This time we're going a little deeper. That was a fun topic. This one will be too, but it's deeper. We're going to talk about, Mike, let me just ask you directly. What are some of the things that you do to keep your mindset on track?
So I have two models that I like to use, and I don't know that they're really models, but that just demonstrates that, this is my Arizona State University education coming through, which I'm sure everybody at ASU is really happy that I just put it out there that way. And I am a Sun Devil. I'm a proud Sun Devil. But there's two kind of views that I look at here. One of them is something that Carol Quinn actually talked about when she was on the podcast, which is the idea of internal versus external locus of control, and how important that is in identifying internal versus external locus of control when you're interviewing people. So although Carol would argue, and the data aligns with this, but Carol would say that this is something that happens when you're young. It's something that's created in your youth, and it is something that you can't change over time. And I don't know if she'd go as far as saying you can't change, but it's really, really hard to change. And so for those of you who are wondering, okay, what is this internal versus external locus of control? The way that I look at it is, if we've got an internal locus of control, we look at situations and say, all right, I understand the rules. I understand what just happened. I can go out there and I can accomplish whatever the thing is that I need to accomplish. I think of this as I actually get to operate the thermostat inside the house. If it's an external locus of control, then things just tend to happen to me. Woe is me, or I'm super lucky, or all of these other things, but things tend to happen to me. And instead of being the thermostat, I'm more of the thermometer, or the thing that keeps track of the temperature. So as a thermostat, can I drive the temperature, turn it up and down, amplify things, get things moving forward? Or am I the thermometer that basically just reports on the things that have happened? And that's what I think of when thinking of internal versus external locus of control.
Well, first thing that comes to mind is Carol Quinn, because you mentioned her. The second thing is Ray Edwards. I saw him wear a t-shirt once that said, before I tell you what his t-shirt said, let me tell you, Mike Simmons, your interview with Ray Edwards was fantastic. Great episode. That was one where when I listened to it, I thought, because I do listen, if I'm not on an episode with Mike, I listen. And I listened to that and I thought, man, I wish I would have been there for that one. That was a great conversation, Mike.
Well, and you were the catalyst for it, because you were the one, when I asked you the question, I said, hey, what's something that Ray doesn't usually talk about that would be good to start the conversation with? And you said coffee shop. I had no idea that Ray and his son at a coffee shop. And now I do. And we actually talked about it. And I got the same feedback from Jen, where she said, that was awesome. The best part of it was all the conversation around the coffee shop. And then I thought, man, maybe I need to talk to people about their businesses a little bit more than talking about all of the other stuff that we talk about. But we'll see. Maybe we'll reprogram at some point down the road. If you liked that podcast episode, let us know, please. And you can let us know at Catalyst Sale on Twitter and via LinkedIn.
My mug that I drink tea out of every day is a Revel 77 mug from Ray Edwards Coffee Shop, because it's in Spokane. I've been there a few times. So anyway, great episode. Ray Edwards, I once saw wearing a t-shirt that said, "It's all my fault." That's all the t-shirt said. And I thought, what a great attitude. And it goes into what Carol Quinn talks about, the internal external locus of control. Because if you look at that, it's all my fault. That's not true. It's not all your fault. But if you look at it that way and realize, gosh, I control a lot of this situation, even if it's just how I feel about it, what actions I take because of it. That is a healthier attitude, it's all my fault, than to say, well, gosh, if Mike Simmons hadn't have done this, I wouldn't be here. I like that attitude. It's all my fault.
I was wondering I thought you were going to talk about hadn't done what. And I was like, man, hadn't sent you an invitation to schedule a podcast recording. You're right. You would not have been here. So yeah, but all kidding aside, there are things we can control. There are things that are outside of our control. We all kind of know this. And many of us have either read or have heard or have seen or recite the Serenity Prayer. Once we kind of get through this process piece of saying, hey, you know what? There are some things that are inside my control. There are some things outside of my control. And if I understand the difference between the two, then I can actually go forward and make a positive impact on the things that I can directly drive. And this is where I think about that idea of, are you the thermostat or the light switch or the dimmer switch or whatever metaphor you want to use that brings light into the conversations that you have with people, brings heat into the conversations that you have with people, brings energy into the experiences that you have with others? Or are you on the other side, which is you just kind of, things happen and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but they just kind of happen.
Carol Quinn has a second book, lesser known. Her first one, the motivation-based interviewing, is really popular. Her second one, Have the Attitude, not as popular, but focuses it's just as good, I think. So when I say not as popular, it's not because of that, but it focuses just on this, the attitude and what you can control with your attitude. And it's such a great topic. And if you can shift it, this is where it falls into mindset. I think that if you can shift it and be more like Ray's t-shirt and say, oh, it's all my fault, and have a better attitude. And now some people can say it's all my fault and mean it in a woe is me way, but that's not how I interpreted Ray's shirt. I don't think that's how Ray interpreted his t-shirt. To say, oh, this is all my fault, all of a sudden gives you control over the situation. Because if it's your fault, you can do something about it.
You can absolutely do something about it. And if you take that ownership and then start figuring things out, it's kind of like that episode that we talked about relative to the importance of saying, I don't know. You say, I don't know, but I'm going to find the answer. I don't know, but let me find out. I don't know, but let me move forward. It's all my fault. I'm going to take ownership of this. I have the ability to react and make an impact. And I will always bet on me. I will always bet on my capability. I will always bet on the team. I will always bet on us being able to win, being able to get through things. Now, I get it sometimes, and this has happened to the Islanders a lot in recent weeks, with the exception of yesterday. They beat the Penguins, but the Islanders, when they play Boston, they win this year for whatever reason. Boston's one of the number one teams in the league, and the Islanders have figured out that they've got their number. And I shouldn't say this out loud, because then once we get into the playoffs, we're going to get swept or something like that. But that's my own superstitions. There are times where you will do absolutely everything. You will put yourself in the best position to win, and you will ultimately just run out of time. The clock's not in your control. You can't add time back into the clock. In sales, we can add time back into the clock by creating more pipeline and bringing more revenue into the business and adding more of that lifeblood and oxygen into the business. But sometimes you just run out of time. And go back to the Admiral Payne quote, which we've talked about so many times on the podcast. You do your best and you forgive yourself. And I think these are all things that relate to a mindset, a winning mindset that we deliver to each of the experiences that we have in front of us.
That is always one of my favorite quotes. Do your best and forgive yourself. And it does wrap into this conversation about mindset, because you have to have the mindset, I'm going to do my best today. Because if you don't do your best, that quote doesn't matter. And the second is, there are many times, this is true for me, Mike, I assume it's true for you, many times your best just isn't good enough. And you have to be able to say, hey, I forgive myself. Now let's do it again tomorrow.
Andrew beat me on the golf course on Sunday. I shot 43 going out, and then shot a 56 coming back in. 43 followed by a 56, and Andrew beat me by 2 strokes. I did not have my best.
That happens. Mike, I'm hoping that if somebody hears this and for the first time, this message for the first time, that it's all your fault, you have control, it's not outside control. If we're hearing this for the first time, Mike, thinking, oh my goodness, that could change my career, that could change my family life, what do you do next? If you're willing to accept it's all my fault, what do you do next?
Well, I think it goes back into that piece around you do your best and forgive yourself. So once you realize it's all your fault and you have control, then you start to look at what are the specific things that I can do to influence positive outcomes. And one of the drawings that I'll throw up on the whiteboard every once in a while will be the drawing of a person getting ready to climb a mountain range. And my artistic capabilities are not the greatest, as some people have pointed out. But in this, there's a number of different ways to go up the mountain range. I can meander through the path, walk the traditional path, which will help avoid some elevation and avoid some general challenges. I can take a straight line and deal with a lot of obstacles and have a number of challenges, or I can find somebody with a helicopter. And if I find somebody with a helicopter, that's one way to leap past a lot of this stuff. If I want to take the meandering path as I learn, that's another way to do it. If I want to take the straight path just because I think it's going to be the best route, just know that you're going to run into some obstacles. And when you get to those obstacles, you will find a way to overcome. If you are unable to find a way to overcome, ask for help. Lean on your network. Call those people in your network, the people who you can send text messages to or direct messages to, or hang out with periodically on a Zoom call, and just say, hey, I'm struggling. Could you give me a hand? Can you help me? I'm trying to break through these things. And I would imagine that you can find those people who are in your life who care about your success, care about your performance, and they will lend an open ear, and they will, and what you'll probably find when you have that conversation is you realize that they have dealt with the same struggle in one way, shape, or form. They might use a little bit different language. The stakes might not have been as high as the stakes are for you right now, but they've dealt with that challenge in some way, shape, or form, or they know somebody else who has, and they'll likely put you in contact and they'll help you there because they're interested in your success.
And this ties us back to the episode Mike mentioned before about being able to say, I don't know. That it's part of a mindset. To be able to say, I don't know, to be able to ask for help. Gosh, that's a big one, because maybe men suffer from this more, where we don't want to say, I need help with this. We just want to keep going. We don't want to look at the map. We don't want to ask for directions. We don't want to say, I need help with this.
I don't think it's a male or female thing. And I get the jokes that will happen in the so-and-so never asked for directions and all of that kind of stuff. But I was on a Clubhouse discussion. I'm really enjoying Clubhouse. I spend Saturdays and Sunday mornings on Clubhouse, either engaging in conversation or listening to conversations. And there was a women in sales group led by a couple of folks. And this past week, they were talking about Queen Bee syndrome. And I had never heard of the Queen Bee syndrome. And I won't even do it justice by saying it. I'll add links in the show notes to some folks who've talked about this. But one of the things that they were talking about is the challenge that women have in the workplace in a competitive environment, and asking other women for help because of the competitiveness of that environment. This is not a man or woman or male or female or however you identify out there kind of thing. This is a people problem. We all at various points in time will struggle with these things or have struggled with these things. And if you haven't struggled with them, you may not be pushing yourself hard enough, or you're just really lucky. But if you have struggled with them, realize you're not the only one who struggled with these challenges, whatever those challenges are. The ask for help. And it could be, hey, I just need to work on my putting game on the golf course, or my wedge game on the golf course, which is really, I would say, simple stuff, although I continue to struggle with it, but the stakes aren't really high. Or it could be, hey, I'm just trying to get this going in my business. Just ask for help. There are people out there who want to help you. And if you're struggling with that, send me a direct message. I can connect you with some folks who are happy to help on just about any topics. I mean, that's one of the things I've been very fortunate of in my life is I've worked very hard to create a very strong network of people who are really good at things. Now, I don't know Liam Neeson, and I know he's got a special set of skills and all of those things, and he talks about that in his Taken movies. I don't know him, but I do know a number of people who are really good at operations, who are really good at marketing. We're talking to one of them, Jody, on the other end, really good at podcasting. Again, Jody, good at mindset, Jeff Knoll, leadership, customer service. These are a number of people out there who are experts in these areas, and you just have to lean on the network. So if you're struggling with any of those things, just send a direct message to @Catalyst Sale, and we will, either I will or members of the team will help you get connected with someone who is really interested in that topic. And I'm sure you'll find there's a lot of common ground that you have with them as well.
Mike, being the park ranger that I am, former park ranger, although once a ranger, always a ranger, being the former park ranger I am, when you mentioned queen bee syndrome, I was like, oh no, honeybees are facing another pandemic. So I was relieved to find out it's a mindset issue and not an actual problem with honeybees.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a mindset issue. It sounded like it was a competitive issue, like there can only be one, but I've never experienced that. I mean, most of you, if you've seen my picture, I'm a 46-year-old white dude. So I've not run into a queen bee scenario, but it's fascinating to listen to the challenges that we all run into and really how common some of those challenges are that we face in the marketplace. Just ask for help. Just ask.
Well, and as Mike encouraged you to do, reach out and he can help connect you to somebody that is really good at whatever it is you need help with, you want to learn more about. And although I have not been active on Clubhouse as of late, I have found mindset conversations have become very common there, which tells me two things. One, there are a lot of people facing the same mindset struggles you might be having. And two, there are a lot of people willing to talk about it, and you can easily join in and you don't even have to talk. You can just listen. Sometimes that helps. All right, Mike, if somebody does want to reach out, connect with you, ask for help, get a connection, where can they do that?
The best place to go is @Catalyst Sale, and you can go to @Catalyst Sale on Twitter, you can go to @Catalyst Sale on Instagram, send a direct message. There are a couple folks who are monitoring those channels, and someone will get back to you. Those are the two best channels, though, Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, thank you so much, Mike, and thank you for listening to the Catalyst Sale Podcast.